Help me understand. I'm not a hater of AOC. I respect her assiduity, her developing of a following, of her making herself relevant. But I don't even think she is a Democrat in terms of what you guys were in your thick band with Clinton or even Obama.
And Chris, that's exactly my position. Is first of all, you chose the wrong guy to try to help you understand this, because all you need to know is that wing of the party, those 79 or 80 that voted for this, really to me comprise the new socialist Democratic wing of the party. The one that is, of course, on the ballot today in New York City, as you well know. And that is what I'm trying to get my other Democratic friends to recognize, is the weight that is placing on a party that otherwise, I believe, has good principles and values, as you just referenced, Clinton Democrats, Humphrey Democrats like me. So with all that said, it's absurd, it's obnoxious, it is counterproductive, it's anything but pragmatic. And as you just noted, the president, you can debate the authority of the president to do what he did. I understand that. I was actually one that had been trying to repeal the 1991 and 2002 AUMFs, the authorization for the use of military force, that are still active right now by presidents, Democratic or Republican. And of course, the Article 2 authority that affords the president the chance to do what he needs to or she needs to defend America. And can you imagine, Chris, if that had actually come to the floor for debate? What a debacle and an embarrassment that would have been, which is a sad commentary on Congress. So with all that said, I think what you're seeing is that the Democratic caucus has now about 80 members that I would argue are no more Democratic socialists, not Democrats, not unlike the Republican side of the aisle, which has already been challenged with MAGA Republicans and America First Republicans versus the more moderate wing. And that's why, I'm arguing that I think we need competition for the overwhelming majority of Americans that are center-right, center-left. They're feeling a little bit homeless and a little confused right now, and I'm one of them.
Magnified minorities. You guys are going through the same thing. There is no GOP. Nobody even really talks about Republicans. It's all MAGA, right? And it's not just branding. The fringe has overtaken. And I think the same thing has happened to your party. I don't think it's just 80. Yes, in Congress, nominally, you had 80. But I think it's over. I think the Democratic Party is not my father's party. You guys don't fight for the working class. You fight for the fringe. You fight for the few. You pick culture wars. You're trans sports. It's okay that this kid supports terror. He should stay in the country. That's who you are now. And I think that we're not going to say Democrat much longer. There's going to be some new acronym.
I think you're sadly right. There are still some trying to hold the line, still some remaining in Congress, but I think you're going to see that pendulum swing, especially as younger generations aspire to national service or public service, and we're already seeing that transition occur. And that's why everybody watching right now, I hope, gives a little thought to the fact that we somehow protect this monopoly on our democracy, if you will, with two parties, two private corporations that have a monopoly on our democracy, and why we wouldn't promote, encourage, and create some space and place for alternative perspectives. I know there are many, Chris, on the right and left in Washington right now, in the House and Senate, that would make a jump to a new entity if they knew that this entity had their backs. And I think this country, our country, needs that now more than ever, because this is just nonsensical.
Do you hear from people in your party that they are really on the wrong side of the 80-20 when it comes to extremism and the risk that it poses to this country, and that you got to run away from people who say globalize the intifada, because that's going to be the culture issue on the ballot in the midterms? You're going to have a macroeconomic picture that's going to work in your favor if things stay the way they are right now as Democrats, or whatever you call yourselves at that time. But the social issue is going to be who's trying to kill us, and your party is going to be seen as sheltering and defending these people.
And that's why I find myself on the outside now, having spoken my truth. I think it represents an overwhelming majority of Democratic voters. By the way, we're not just on the wrong side of what you just spoke about. We're on the wrong side of the immigration issue. We were on the wrong side of the inflation issue, essentially denying that it was a problem when we are the party of the working class. If you do a retrospective on just the last number of years, Chris, it's astounding on how we've stopped listening. When I say we, the Democratic Party has stopped listening to voters. Increasingly, voters are even failing to communicate because they've had enough and they're just retreating to their corners. And that is a sad commentary on the state of political affairs. But all it takes is a little bit of initiative, a little bit of interest in doing better. And for all those wondering what we can do, let's promote some competition and create opportunities for people of more moderate perspectives, common sense, and most of all, competency. And I want to say one more thing about those 80 that voted not to table the resolution, the impeachment resolution. I would imagine most of those 80, Chris, have never worked outside of organizing, activism, or politics. And when you've worked in an enterprise, for-profit, nonprofit, any organization, and you realize that to get something done, you got to be pragmatic, you got to build coalitions, and you have to read the room. You know, you got to read the room. You got to serve your customers. And if all you're doing is serving a very small subset, that's great. But you're not going to win national elections, and it is so consequential now. So take a look at those 80 names, and I would imagine you'll find very few have done anything but serve in the political arena. That's a failure of our current democracy.
But I hope this is a moment for the membership, because it really checks every box. Forget about the uselessness of trying to impeach this guy when you don't have the numbers, but the rationale. We just got a ceasefire out of that. Look, I didn't like it. I don't think he's got the legal authority. I think the 2001, 2002 AUMFs don't apply and are a joke at this point. And I think the War Powers Resolution is not unconstitutional the way the Speaker says. That's just his way of stepping away from it. But Congress doesn't want to own it, so it's not going to happen. And it puts you on the side of, like, backing the regime as a victim. It's just crazy. Anyway, Dean, you're always welcome here to make the case. I'm seeing it, all right.
Chris,
I'm just asking you because, you know, these are your people.
Yeah, well, they are my people. I'm still trying to reform it, but I got to tell you, like most Americans right now, I'm getting into a point where I've had enough, and that's why I appreciate your perspective and what you're promoting as well, which is reason and common sense. There's a dearth of it in Washington, D.C.
My politics are very simple. Don't help the people who want to chop my head off. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.